Okay. So I had a dream. It was just be just before midnight on January 8th. Somehow I had been sleeping, woke up uh, close to midnight um, from this dream. So I was thinking in the dream, I was thinking of moving to a new area. So I saw a neighborhood that looked good, and I was going to drive in that neighborhood and see what the houses were like to see if that's where I wanted to go. And as I walked through the neighborhood, drove through the neighborhood looking for my new home, the houses actually looked like, from the outside, it looked like I was driving into a neighborhood that looked appealing from the outside, like a subdivision. But when I actually started going through them, it almost looked like a huge office area with cubicles. How when you go into an office these days, they have the cubicles as you walk through aisles. The neighborhood seems like it was cut out and patterned that way. The plots of land off squared off for these houses. Now, one thing is I didn't notice much yards for playing outside, but the people in the bear with me just a moment. So there wasn't much land, but as you go from plot to plot, walking down the aisles, um, or driving down the aisles of these houses, because it felt like I was in a car, but it felt like I was walking. That's why I keep going back and forth between walking and driving. I know I was in a car, but it felt like I was actually walking. So I could see in the people's houses. They were see-through houses. There were no wall, even though there were walls, they seemed transparent because I could vividly see them. They like they had tiny living rooms where you could see a TV there. I could see a child or two maybe playing in the living room, but the living room was right next to the dining room. And I could see in one situation families sitting at dining tables that looked like park benches, small quaint park benches, but even like they were uncomfortable. I remember one father looking at me. It seems like he was mashed together, uncomfortable in the seating place, and he had a smile on his face, but it was a fake smile. Um, so it. I remember thinking, I don't want to live in this neighborhood. And I said, you can see everything going on there. These were see-through houses. And I said, I remember laughing and said, cheaters won't be in here because they can't hide, because everything was transparent. There was no privacy from house to house. You can clearly see. They looked like they were in tight cafe booths at their dinner tables. And it was more like tiny houses, not much of a living room, very little space. And I remember that the people that I did see seemed to have fake smiles as to pretend to be happy, but they were not. I remember a man at the table with his family. He looked at me with a fake smile as being forced to smile. Very tight. The table's too tight and uncomfortable for him. And I began to ask God, what is this dream? What does it mean? And so I began to think, what is going on in the church? It looks like great on the outside when you're driving in, but looking in, folk are not happy. They're just pretending. And I remember talking to Dr. Green about it, and she said, yes, the revelation she had was pretenders in the church. Folk are restricted and limited, not able to be their true selves. So they must pretend like it is well. Loose the people and let them out. And you think about legalism. and folk in legalistic churches where people don't feel free in the church. No one is even outside. That seemed to me like today. Some they're so held so tight by these churches, by oppressive houses of God, that where there's supposed to be houses of God, but people are in it doing the wrong thing. Leaders are doing the wrong thing, and we need to repent in the church. But what the people are not even coming out. The world can't see you when you're inside your building, and everybody's not coming inside the church. Because if you're not coming out, you're not, they don't see you outside freely enjoying yourself. You're not witnessing. You're not having any outreach activities that will bring them outside to your yard. When children are playing, it attracts other children. There's nothing that denotes you being a light, legalistic, and the people are held captive and not free. See-through houses was what I titled that dream. And then I began to say, Lord, what is going on in the church? Because we're in the process of building, and we don't want to replicate things that we've experienced that were negative or adverse. And we want to be somewhere where people are glad to come, not where they look at it and they say, I don't want to be in there. We don't want to be like that. And so I began to look up things as to major issues facing the church today. One thing I found in gravityleadership.com, they said racism in the church and in our world. It starts in the church because from what I've seen, a lot of that evangelical movement is filled with racism. So the church is bleeding out into the world in a negative way. Sexism, patriarchy, Christian nationalism, religious trauma, spiritual abuse. I looked up another one that says, why are Christians no longer going to church? And this was a website, a giving website, ncfgiving.com, and it says 20% say they dislike the sermons, 11% say they do not feel welcome at religious services. About 1 in 4, which is 26%, says that it's logistical reasons, whereas the area or what's around, or maybe it's too far. Some say, actually, the logistical reasons say it's because they don't have time or that they may be in poor health. So that's what are the excuses. So then I began to look at, why are people leaving the church? And this blog from pushpay.com gave 6 reasons people are leaving your church and how to keep them. Well, the 6 reasons that they're leaving is you can't deal with the politics. There are no opportunities to get involved. My church is too judgmental. I can't identify with the people. The focus doesn't resonate with me. Money is not being spent wisely. And these are things that we've got to remedy. We don't want to replicate. And here I found another one, vancopayments.com. It's funny how these websites that they seem to be like what churches use for helping with their finances. Of course, and it's not, you would think it's funny that they come up with the research, but I can understand why. And so this one gave 15 signs of a dying church and what to do about it. One says it has an unhealthy prayer culture. Attendance is consistently decreasing. Baptisms aren't happening. People aren't being saved. Tithes are decreasing. Age of the congregation. Lack of disciple making. And the church isn't serving others. So we have a problem in the church. And we have people who are identifying themselves as spirituals, but not religious, because they don't want to be committed to what they're seeing in the churches. We have to do better, and we have to set a different trend. We have to be what Christ called us to be in the church. See through church, the dream. People are watching. It's a prophetic dream. People are watching. They're looking in, and they don't like what they see. What can we do to fix it? And to fix it, we're going to have to go to God. Go to God in prayer. And we're going to have to be sure that our lives are lining up to the life of Christ. We're not supposed to walk around gossiping and judging and pointing fingers. We're just supposed to be sharing the love of God, shining the light of Christ, being a blessing in the kingdom, meaning in our world and in our culture, without being tangled up, so much to say, with the culture, and not submitting to the culture. See through churches. We must wake up, and we must turn and break the cycle that has been occurring over the last few years. God is coming back for a people without spot or wrinkle, not hateful, not mean-spirited, but people who demonstrate the love of Christ. It's okay to have the truth of Christ, but the truth must be shared in love. The other thing my mother used to say, you cannot, what we're trying to do is clean and gut the fish that we catch, that we see, without catching the fish first. Catch the fish first, then work towards cleaning the fish, teaching the fish, sharing with the fish. Not gutting them before you get them. That's backwards. God bless you. Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus, we ask you to commit our way unto you and help us as a people to consecrate before you in fasting and prayer, and turn from every evil way, not from what's outside of us, but in our church houses. We must repent and turn. For your word says, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then would I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. He's talking to the people in the church. We must change. Bless you.